Nature is terrifying enough, but somehow humans keep treating hurricanes, bears, and boiling geysers like mildly inconvenient customer service issues. It's amazing how many people look at danger and think, yeah, I can take that. And trust me, it only gets dumber from here. 1. A man in Florida once decided that the best way to feel the power of the storm during a tropical cyclone was to stand on his roof holding a metal rake, as if auditioning to become a lightning rod with a gym membership. According to neighbors, he kept shouting, "This is nothing," as the wind tried its best to relocate him to a different zip code. The storm, of course, didn't care. Nature looked at him the way we look at people who microwave aluminum, confused, concerned, and oddly impressed he made it this far in life. When a gust finally knocked him flat, he blamed the storm for being dramatic. Right, because the hurricane was the unreasonable one here. Honestly, the only thing more shocking than his behavior was that gravity, not lightning, ended the performance. And yes, he proudly told the story later like it was heroism, not survival by sheer accident. 2. Somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, a guy decided the perfect backdrop for his engagement announcement was a cliffside during a wind advisory. Because nothing says eternal love like forcing your partner to cling to a rock while you pose like you're in an REI catalog sponsored by Bad Decisions. According to witnesses, every time the fiancé begged to step back, he insisted, "It's fine, I'm outdoorsy now." Meanwhile, the wind was trying to unalive him with all the subtlety of a leaf blower set to yeet. At one point, he even tried to release a handful of confetti which immediately blasted straight into his face like the universe trying to shut him up. They did get the photo, crooked, blurry, and filled with pure regret. But apparently, that was the vibe. Honestly, I hope they survived marriage counseling better than they survived basic weather warnings. 3. During a desert road trip, a tourist saw a dust devil, those tiny spinning whirlwinds of debris, and thought, "Hey, that looks refreshing." As if it were a portable air conditioner instead of a swirling column of sand designed by nature to exfoliate your soul. He walked toward it with the confidence of a man who has never read a single safety sign in his entire life. His friends begged him to stop, but he insisted he had good instincts. Yes, nothing says good instincts like marching directly into nature's blender on smoothie mode. The dust devil grabbed his hat, his sunglasses, and probably his dignity before tossing him aside like a rejected contestant on a game show called "So You Think You Can Outsmart Weather?" When he staggered back, covered in sand and consequences, he claimed he let it win. Sure, buddy. Keep telling yourself that. 4. One winter, a man decided to test the Eischuweis, a thin ice sign on a frozen lake because, in his own words, how thin could it really be? That's right. He treated a government-issued warning as if it were a personal dare. He marched right out, narrating his bravery like he was filming a survival documentary, ignoring the fact that the ice was cracking like cheap plastic with every step. When it finally gave way and swallowed him up to the waist, he seemed genuinely offended, as if the lake had broken some unspoken gentleman's agreement. Friends had to drag him out while he lectured them about overreacting. Nature didn't overreact. Nature simply provided the exact outcome advertised on the sign. If anything, the lake showed remarkable restraint by not taking the whole man. 5. In California, a tourist decided that standing right next to a wildfire zone would make an epic selfie. Yes, apparently nothing screams good Instagram engagement like a wall of flames trying to consume an entire hillside. He ignored firefighters yelling at him to move back because, "I'm just grabbing one quick shot." Sure, and the meteor that ended the dinosaurs was also just passing through. The man posed dramatically as embers and ash literally drifted into his hair, creating the world's least advisable natural confetti. When he finally ran after realizing the fire was moving faster than his camera app, he blamed his phone for lagging. Not the fire, not his choices. The phone. I guess accountability burns hotter than wildfire. 6. Some genius once attempted to kayak during a flash flood, treating a deadly weather event like a spontaneous water park. The water was flowing like a blender full of rocks, trees, and structural regrets, but he cheerfully shouted, "This is going to be sick," as he launched himself into the torrent. Within seconds, the river snatched his kayak like it was repossessing it for unpaid common sense. He clung to a mailbox until rescuers arrived. Yes, a mailbox, looking like he was reenacting a dramatic scene from a movie nobody asked for. When interviewed later, he claimed he misread the forecast. Buddy, the forecast said flash flood in capital letters. The only way it could have been clearer is if it tattooed the word no across your forehead. 7. A beachgoer in Hawaii once tried to outrun an incoming wave because he didn't want to move his stuff. That's right. This man believed his towel and flip-flops were worth challenging the Pacific Ocean to a race. The ocean, unsurprisingly, disagreed. When the wave hit, it launched his belongings into a dimension known only as gone forever, while he face-planted into wet sand with all the grace of a dropped pancake. His response? He scolded the ocean. He actually yelled at a body of water like it was a misbehaving pet. The ocean just kept doing what it does best, not caring. 8. A group of hikers once camped directly under a tree during a windstorm because the branches will block the wind. Yes, they chose the one object specifically designed by nature to crush anything beneath it when stressed. As the storm intensified and branches started snapping like bad alibis, they finally realized their tent placement had the same logic as parking under a vending machine during an earthquake. When a massive limb fell inches from their tent, they declared the spot bad luck. Buddy, that wasn't luck. That was physics trying to send you a certified letter. 9. A tourist in Iceland tried to pet a geyser, as in walk up to a boiling hydrothermal vent and give it a little pat because it looked friendly. I don't know what kind of childhood leads someone to believe steaming columns of scalding water enjoy physical affection, but I hope therapy was involved. When the geyser erupted, shockingly, he screamed that it attacked him. Yes, because the geyser woke up that morning and chose violence. Sir, you touched boiling earth soup. You initiated the encounter. 10. During a tornado watch, a guy decided it was a perfect time to fly the drone. He claimed he wanted dramatic footage, as if tornadoes exist purely to create content for mediocre YouTube channels. The wind snatched his drone into the sky faster than his bank account could scream, "Please, no!" It vanished instantly. He told local news he was shocked. The drone didn't hold up better against a rotating column of atmospheric destruction. Yes, how disappointing that your $300 gadget wasn't engineered to survive weather that destroys houses. 11. A man in Colorado once insisted on grilling outside during a severe wind warning because real men cook with fire. The wind responded by flipping the grill, scattering burning coals across the yard like it was throwing a BBQ-themed tantrum. As he stomped out miniature fireballs, he yelled, "This is ridiculous." Correct, sir. This is ridiculous. Not the weather. You. 12. Hikers in Arizona once followed a random path drawn on someone's phone map rather than the clearly marked trail because shortcuts save time. Their shortcut led them straight into a patch of cactus dense enough to qualify as medieval punishment. They spent the next hour extracting spines while arguing about whose idea it was, as if nature had formed a panel of judges to determine blame. Spoiler, the blame was evenly distributed among everyone present. 13. After a storm warning, one man tried to secure his backyard furniture by stacking it in a stable pyramid, proving he misunderstood both stability and pyramids. The wind toppled it instantly, launching a lawn chair over the fence like it was entering a strongman competition. He watched in disbelief, muttering, "Wow, it shouldn't do that." Nature disagrees. 14. A guy in Maine once tried to outrun a tidal surge because he knew the timing. Apparently, he believed the ocean follows his personal schedule. When the tide rolled in faster than expected, because it's the ocean, not a bus timetable, he ended up trapped on a rock, waving politely at passing seagulls for 45 minutes until rescuers helped him off. His summary afterward? "I miscalculated." Sir, you didn't miscalculate. You guessed. 15. And then there's the man who attempted to film himself conquering an incoming hailstorm. He walked outside proudly, flexing like the storm cared, until the hail began pelting him with chunks of sky ice roughly the size of guilt. He tried to maintain composure on camera but ended up sprinting back inside while shouting the universal human phrase for, "I made a mistake. Ow. Okay. Nope. Nope." When he reviewed the footage, he claimed the hail came out of nowhere. Yes, except for the entire weather alert you ignored. 16. A man visiting Yellowstone decided the boardwalk around the hot springs was too restrictive, so he stepped off the clearly marked path because he wanted a better angle. Yes, nothing enhances photography like ignoring every warning sign printed in all caps in 3 languages. He walked straight onto a thin crust of earth covering boiling water, then acted shocked that the ground tried to swallow him like a disappointed parent. Rangers sprinted over, and he had the audacity to complain that the rules are confusing. Sir, the rules are literally don't step here, unless you enjoy turning your legs into soup stock. He got a fine, a lecture, and a lifelong story that begins with, "So I almost cooked myself alive," but he still insisted the photo was worth it. Spoiler, the photo was crooked, blurry, and half his thumb. 17. A storm-chasing hobbyist once drove straight into a flooded underpass because his GPS said the road was clear. Yes, because satellites orbiting at 12,000 miles elevation definitely know whether the water level is knee-deep, waist-deep, or car submarine mode. As the water started pouring into his vehicle, he kept shouting, "This isn't supposed to be here," as if the flood had missed a scheduled appointment. He climbed onto the roof while clinging to his phone like it was a flotation device, waiting for firefighters who absolutely did not sign up for this brand of wet stupidity. When asked why he kept driving, he said, "The sign said, 'Turn around, don't drown.'" But that felt a little dramatic. Yes, the sign was dramatic. The water swallowing your engine? Totally chill. 18. A beach camper once decided to set up his tent far too close to the shoreline for the view, ignoring the tide schedule posted literally 15 feet away. That night, as the tide rolled in like a quiet but determined home invader, he woke to find his tent slowly floating away with him inside, bobbing like a sad discount houseboat. He panicked, flailing out of the tent and dragging his soaked belongings back to shore while screaming at the ocean for being sneaky. Sneaky, as if the Atlantic tiptoed up the beach wearing socks. When a passerby asked why he camped so close, he said, "I figured the water wouldn't come in that far." Yes, trust your vibes over 4.5 billion years of planetary behavior. Perfect strategy. 19. During a wind advisory, a woman decided to enjoy her backyard yoga routine, complete with candles, incense, and a giant reflective sunshield for ambiance. The wind promptly punted her sunshield into the neighbor's yard, overturned the candles, and sent her yoga mat sailing down the street like it was trying to start a new life. She chased everything barefoot, screaming at the weather like she was negotiating with a toddler refusing to eat vegetables. By the time she returned, the wind had also flipped her patio table with the enthusiasm of a reality show contestant flipping a dinner plate. She insisted afterward that the storm came out of nowhere, despite the giant red warning banner her phone had lovingly presented all morning. 20. A guy hiking in the Rockies heard a rumble and immediately declared it was just a plane, even though there were exactly 0 airports, runways, or flight paths within miles. The rumble, of course, was an avalanche warming up like a stadium crowd. Instead of leaving, he actually tried to record a video, narrating like some budget documentary host, "Looks like the snow is, shifting a bit." The mountain responded by sending a wave of powder down the slope that nearly took him with it. He dove behind a boulder while yelling, okay, I get it," as if the avalanche accepted apologies. When rangers found him, he blamed inaccurate trail information. Yes, the problem was the trail, not the giant moving wall of frozen gravity. 21. A tourist visiting a famous cliff overlook decided that posted barriers were more of a suggestion, so he stepped over them to get a closer view, because apparently nothing says adventure like dangling over several hundred feet of regret. His family begged him to step back, but he kept saying, "Relax, I've got great balance." Meanwhile, the wind was trying to convert him into a cautionary headline. He slipped, caught himself, and immediately declared, "See, I'm fine." No, sir, the wind just missed on its first swing. Rangers eventually escorted him back over the barrier while he complained that everyone's so uptight about nature. Yes, how unreasonable of gravity to exist. 22. During a lightning storm, a couple decided it was the perfect moment to take metal trekking poles to an open field because they weren't going to let weather ruin their vacation. That's a fun mindset until the sky starts firing angry sky lasers directly at anything shiny and upright. They strolled around confidently until a bolt hit terrifyingly close, prompting the fastest cardio session of their lives. They sprinted back to their car, poles clattering like panicked wind chimes while shouting, "Why is it? Aiming for us?" Because you are holding lightning bait, my friends. That's why. 23. A man once attempted to film a calm before the storm video from his porch as a microburst approached. With the confidence of a weather prophet, he casually described the clouds forming while the wind slowly ramped up behind him like a villain reveal. Within seconds, the microburst arrived, flipping his patio umbrella, lifting his chair, and sending him stumbling off-camera with a noise that can only be described as unplanned aerobics. He later uploaded the video with the caption, "Didn't expect that." Yes, the phenomenon famous for arriving instantly and violently caught him off guard. Imagine that. 24. A group of friends thought it would be funny to camp in a dry riverbed because it was flat and comfy, and the weather looked clear enough. 5 hours later, a thunderstorm miles upstream sent a flash flood barreling toward their site like a watery freight train. They barely escaped, abandoning chairs, coolers, gear, and one guy's prized inflatable mattress, which floated majestically away into the darkness like a Viking funeral for common sense. When asked why they chose that spot, they answered, "It didn't look like a river." Yes, because dry rivers famously wear name tags. 25. Someone once attempted to film themselves calmly walking along a pier during a tropical storm because the waves look cool. The waves responded by slamming into the pier with enough force to knock their phone, and them, straight to the ground. They slid across the wet planks like a hockey puck while shouting, "I'm okay!" in a voice that suggested they were absolutely not okay. They blamed the pier afterward. The pier, the one stationary object in this entire scenario. Humanity continues to astound me. 26. A man in Alaska tried to chase away a moose blocking a trail by waving his arms and yelling, "Move it, I'm late!" as if the moose were an Uber parked in a fire lane. The moose stared at him like he was a defective appliance, then charged just enough to send the man sprinting for safety with a scream that completely undermined his earlier display of dominance. When he reached safety, he complained that the moose was aggressive. "Sir, you yelled at a 1,000-pound tank with legs. You're lucky it only gave you a light warning tap of doom." 27. A group of surfers decided to paddle out during a storm surge because the waves were once in a lifetime. Yes, once in a lifetime, because most people only get one chance to be that foolish. Within minutes, the waves tossed them around like laundry in a fury cycle. 2 boards snapped, one surfer lost his swimsuit entirely, and another emerged claiming the ocean has an attitude. The ocean doesn't have an attitude. It has a job. You volunteered to be the project. 28. A man once brought a metal detector to the beach during a thunderstorm because storms uncover treasure. Yes, they do. Mostly hospital bills. As lightning struck offshore, he swept the sand happily, holding the world's most conductive object in the world's most conductive location. When thunder cracked overhead, he finally dropped the detector and dove into the sand like he was trying to burrow his way underground. When asked later why he waited so long, he said, "I didn't think the storm was that close." Lightning would like to file a rebuttal. 29. And finally, a tourist tried to race an incoming sandstorm in the desert because he didn't want to waste daylight. You cannot outrun several miles of airborne earth moving at highway speeds, but he certainly tried, flooring the gas, yelling motivational phrases, and recording the whole escape like a low-budget action movie. The storm overtook him instantly, burying his vehicle in a blanket of dust so thick he had to be dug out by people with more patience than I can comprehend. His explanation? I thought it was smaller. Yes, the giant wall of sand stretching across the horizon fooled him. Classic. And there it is, a full highlight reel of humanity trying to fistfight weather. If you've seen dumber, drop it in the comments and let the voting begin. Stick around, it only gets worse from here.